good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. We are going to get started in about 2 minutes, okay? In the meantime, I'd like to ask you a favor. If you could confirm you can hear me okay, just type something on the chat window, please. I appreciate that. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you for the confirmation. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Microsoft Teams for Education webinar series. My name is Juliano. I am a program manager here at Microsoft, and I'm part of the product group. And this group actually builds the product, so it's a super cool team to be part of. My job is actually a little bit different. I don't build the product myself. What I do instead is work with universities, colleges, higher education institutions, and help them to address collaboration challenges for staff, for faculty, and students. So it's a very, very nice job. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to have you on the session. Thank you for joining wherever you are in the world. Prior to the product group, I used to work for the business group in the United States, so working with sellers and enabling sellers and creating demand for teamwork solutions, including Microsoft Teams. And prior to that, my background is really about 17 years working with collaboration and communication solutions. So I'm very excited to be here today. I'm very excited you're joining us today. With me, I have Dominic Williamson. He's going to help us through the chat. So you can, please feel free to ask your questions, post your comments during the session. Dominic is going to help us with that. And we also have Robin from the Event Builder team. If you need any assistance on technical issues, if you're having anything around audio or screen sharing, she will be able to help you with that as well. All right, so today, the focus is going to be around Microsoft Teams for students. So this is a webinar series, as I mentioned before, and we have different sessions for different audiences. Today, we're going to focus on students. So let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to share with you here what's the agenda for today. So we are going to cover an overview of Microsoft Teams, what actually Teams is, what it does, where we are, how Teams is helping other universities across the world. But then we're going to move to the second topic, which is actually what I want to spend most of the time today, which is basically doing a demo for you, but focusing on student-specific scenarios. So I'm going to spend most of the session on that part today. And at the end, we're going to recommend some next steps depending on how you're already using Teams today or any ideas you may have. So let's get started. One thing that is really interesting for us is how fast Microsoft Teams has grown over the past, I think, year and a half. The product has been around for about a year and a half, and we have more than 300,000 companies, universities, colleges using Teams. So the key point here is not that, but is really the fact that if you're thinking about using Teams for your study groups or recommending this to your professors, you're not alone, right? So we have a lot of universities already doing that out there. So it's been proven already. It's really becoming a standard. And I think one of the key things as well is really as you're going through your college and you're graduating and you're thinking about where you're going to work, there's a big chance the company you're going to work for is already using Teams today, testing Teams today. So that's another reason for you to get started already. The other thing I'd like to point out here is really the fact that Teams is a global solution, a global product. It's available in 44 different languages. So this is a big deal for to make sure actually no matter what the language, you can actually have access to Teams and you can communicate and get all the benefits it brings. So this is the momentum behind Teams. And one thing actually I should have said this before, this is right the title of the slide. It has been the fastest growing business in Microsoft history. So this is another reason why it's super exciting for us to work with the product, but also understand how we can bring this to your reality, how we can help you with your specific needs in college for class activities, extracurriculum activities, and so on and so forth. So very exciting times here for us around Teams. But let's talk about what Teams really is. So hopefully some of you have heard of Microsoft Teams already. That's why you're here. I'm assuming some of you have used Teams already or actually use this on a daily basis. I know you're coming from different backgrounds. So I want to bring everybody to the same page. Teams has a couple of key attributes here. The first one is Teams brings communication capabilities. Actually, let me step back. I'm going to talk about that, but I want to step back for a second. Teams is a hub for teamwork. And what we mean by that is Teams brings together a lot of things you need to collaborate with others. It brings together chat conversations. It brings together calls, meetings, documents, presentations, videos, tasks, and the list goes on and on. So think about how you're working with your teammates, how you're working with your professors, how you might be working if you're already a teaching assistant, for instance, how you're working with your peers. Everything you need to work together coming to a single place. That's the key thing for Teams, bringing everything together. And it does that through four main aspects you see here on the slide. The first one is really what I was referring to before, communication. So Teams brings a lot of different options for communication. So you can use Teams as a chat tool, so messaging application. You can just have persistent chat with your teammates, with your professor. You can ask questions, and I'm going to show you a couple of options to do that during the demo. You can also call other people in Teams, so online calls, and you can do this from your PC, your Mac, your phone, and again, I'm going to cover a little bit more of that. But you can also use Teams for meetings. So if you have a study group meeting or office hours with your professor, you can actually leverage Teams for that purpose. So this is a way to summarize the communication capabilities for Teams. But Teams is much more than that. Teams brings collaboration capabilities as well. So you have the ability, for instance, to create a document or create a spreadsheet and work together with your teammates, with your professor, with your cohort, whatever makes sense for your needs. So you can create the file, you have multiple people working on the file at the same time, so no more version history, tracking who's doing what, who's working on each chapter. I mean, everything comes together in Teams. And it brings context as well. So you can actually see the content you're working on. You can have a conversation about that content if necessary over chat. And if you need to escalate that to a call, for instance, you can do this easily at the same screen. So communications, collaboration. The next thing about Teams, and I'm going to step back again for a second. I'm talking about communications and collaborations. This means Teams integrates with a lot of different services across Office 365. Some of you might be familiar with OneDrive for Business or Forms or OneNote. So there's a lot of different services coming directly from Microsoft, but Teams also brings a lot of integration capabilities with third-party developers. So you might be using, let's say, I don't know, Trello, for instance, or SurveyMonkey for surveys. There's a lot of different options from other developers that you can also bring and connect to Teams. So this is a very rich capability Teams offers as well. And the last one, to be fair, this is more technical. This is usually targeted to IT. So the technology teams in your university is taking care of the environment, making sure everything works, making sure everything is compliant, is secure, everyone has access to. So there are a lot of resources for that, but we're not going to explore this today because this is really focused on the IT pro audience. But I think the short message for you as students here is really the fact that Teams, if you're using Teams, Teams is going to be a secure solution. It's going to be compliant for your university. So it brings you the collaboration capabilities, but it also brings also the peace of mind for your institution. And when we bring everything together in a specific education environment, great things happen. So the example I'm going to share here with you is, I love this example. I use this all the time when I'm talking to universities because I think it's just great what has happened here. So this is the University of New South Wales in Australia, and everything started in the School of Engineering with Dr. David Kellerman, you see here on the slide. By the way, there's a short video about this. I'm not going to show the video today, but you can easily find this if you go to YouTube, UNSW Microsoft Teams. That's going to be the very first video. It's a 2-minute video. You can watch that. And basically the story here is very simple. Dr. Kellerman was looking for ways to drive student engagement. So he is leveraging Teams for that. And I think what I really love about the scenario here is Teams is almost like transparent here. He's using Teams, but he's also he has taken different steps to improve the way their students learn from himself and from each other. That's the key thing, and this is why you see the numbers here, engagement increasing, engagement levels increasing a lot. So basically, he took some different steps. One thing he has done was basically instead of using a whiteboard or a blackboard, he actually uses digital ink. So as a student, I don't need to be concerned, and you're going to see this on the video. His students talking about this. They don't need to be concerned about writing down every single thing because they have the professor notes available online through Teams. They're actually using OneNote for that, but it's available through Teams. So it's great. From a student perspective, being able to pay attention, be focused on the class, on the conversation, it's huge. The second thing is he records his classes. So if you miss a class, you can easily, again, go back and watch the class. You can add closed captions to the class, so you can actually search for specific words. It's a very different kind of a teaching environment. And the results are very encouraging to see student engagement, student-to-student engagement. So I have questions. I'm a student. I have questions about the class. I ask the question in a team because it's an open communication environment or workplace. What happens is anyone can jump in and answer that question. So the professor or the TA they're not a bottleneck anymore, right? So it's what happens is it's better for them. They don't get overloaded with many questions, and it's better for students as well because now I post a question, I can get my answer faster, and if I'm actually answering, replying to another student, I'm also learning faster as well. So it's a win-win-win. It's a great environment. I would definitely recommend you to watch the video again. If you go to YouTube, UNSW Microsoft Teams is going to be the very first video you're going to see there, and you're going to see the whole story through Dr. Kellerman's own words and his students as well. So this is the kind of thing you can do with Microsoft Teams in a university. Now, let's get started for the demo. So a couple of things I want to share with you. The first thing is Teams is available across multiple platforms. And today we're going to use Teams on Edge. So we're going to use that on the browser, but Teams is available for Windows, for Mac. It's available on tablets as well. It's available for iOS, Android. If you think about browsers beyond Edge, Teams is also available on Chrome and Firefox. So a lot of different options. I definitely encourage you, even if you're already using Teams today, and again, I'm going to show you the example on the browser. My favorite option is actually to use the client, because it's faster, the performance it's better. I think from a functionality perspective, they're very similar, but the performance, for me personally, I think it's better if you use the client. And I use Teams in different, personally I use it in 3 different environments. I use it on my Surface, so on Windows. I also use it on my Mac, and I use it on my iPhone. So very different platforms, but it's the same application, so it doesn't really matter where I start my day or end my day. I can always have access to the same kind of information across different devices and different platforms. If you need to download Teams, there's a very easy and short link for you here. You just go to aka.ms/getteams. So you can do this for the demo itself. You can follow along, and I'm going to share this link again in a few minutes, but you can do this right now. And even if you're already using Teams and you're using Teams on a browser, you can check the options and download this later. Also, you can use this link to share with your peers, right? If you're bringing other people to Teams, because Teams is a collaboration communication platform. It only makes sense if people around you, people you work with, and they're part of your cohort, they're also in Teams. So you can encourage everyone to download the clients using aka.ms/getteams. Now, thinking about the demo scenarios we're going to cover today, we're going to cover 3 scenarios. The first one is for study group. And the idea here is you have yourself and you have students around you that you're already actually meeting. You're doing this already, regardless of Teams. You're already doing this. You're meeting perhaps on a weekly basis, every other week, to discuss specific topics. And basically, what you do, you have chat conversations, you ask questions, you share cool things about that specific topic that someone has learned, and that has really helped me. So I want to make sure everybody in the group has access to that information as well. You may share a specific file. You may work on the same file at the same time, and you may have this. You may meet actually on, again, a regular basis. So this is the first scenario, the study group. The key thing about this scenario here is the fact that you can do this yourself. You don't need necessarily to have a professor organizing everything for you in Teams. So the example I gave before from Dr. Kellerman is slightly different. This is the professor starting everything. He decided to organize his classes on Teams. For the study group scenario here, that's not the case. This is student collaborating with other students. The second scenario is exactly what you saw on the University of New South Wales use case. This is course collaboration. So this is very similar, but slightly different. It's different because here a professor like Dr. Kellerman decided, I want to teach my class through Teams. So I'm going to organize all the topics there. I'm going to post all the notes there. I'm going to post recordings there, the files. I'm going to encourage conversations there. I'm going to answer questions there, and so on and so forth. So the environment here, you can do everything you can do in the first one, but now think about the digital ink example I gave before. So the professor might be taking notes, and you would be able to see his notes in Teams. And you'd be able to ask questions to the professor, to the TA, and anyone else, because again, it's an open environment. Anyone can come here and respond to the questions. You can create files, and again, you can also join office hours, but thinking from a course and a class collaboration perspective. That's the second scenario we're going to explore. The third scenario we're going to discuss is outside of the class. Now we're thinking about clubs, societies where you still need to organize meetings, and you also meet on a regular basis. Sometimes you might be planning events, you need to fundraise, you need to bring new members in. So there are ways to do that in Teams, and we're going to cover that as part of the demo as well. So to make sure, if you want to follow along, if you're already using Teams, there are a couple of options for you here. You can log in, again, through this very short link, aka.ms/edustart. This will take you to the login page. And if Teams is enabled for your university, you'll be able to log in just using your school account. If it's not, if you can't log in, it means basically your university doesn't have access to Teams, which shouldn't be the case because Teams is free, so everybody should have access to Teams. And again, you see the link here to download any of the clients I mentioned before is the same link, aka.ms/getteams. So with that, let's switch to Teams finally, and let's start talking about the tool. So I wanna make sure everybody's up to speed, everybody knows what Teams can do. So I'm going to cover a couple of things here. Let me just hide this here and let's get started. So on the left side, you see the sidebar here. These are the main apps within Teams. So it starts with activity, and then we have chat, Teams, meetings, and so on. So I'm going to cover most of them, not all, but I'm going to cover most of them in a second. The next piece here, you see the teams that I'm part of. So if you remember the three scenarios I mentioned before, Team Blue, this is my study group. The B20S entrepreneurship course, this is the course collaboration. And the marketing club is the clubs and societies scenario that I mentioned before. So we're going to cover this. These are the teams that I'm part of. And if you go to the right, this is where actually the main content resides. So you see here we have conversations. Depending on what you're doing, this is going to change. It could be the file coming up, it could be a meeting, it could be a task. So I'm going to walk you through that as well. All right, so the first thing I like to point out here on the top left, you see this activity option. This is, as you start using Teams, this is where I start my day, and this is a great place to go when you're starting your day as well, because this is going to consolidate all notifications going across Teams. So if you're part of the three teams I mentioned before, it doesn't matter if someone is sending you a file, inviting you to something, replying to your message, liking your message, everything is going to show up in the activity feed. So this is a great place to start. Make sure you're not missing anything. And I can filter this here. I can come here, for instance, and I'm going to say, hey, I want to see only what is unread, and it's going to filter for me, and then I can make sure I'm tracking everything and I'm not missing any important information. So that's a very short summary around the activity feed. Now let's switch to the next app here, chat. So for chat, it could be very simple. So in this example here, I have my recent chats. I can have my contacts here as well. But in this example, I am Matthew Sturgis. That's my username here for this demo. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, this is Edge. It looks like an app, right? But it's just Edge in full screen. So in this case here, I'm going to chat with Jamie. And you see, actually, before we do that, you see if I go up, scroll up, you see all the conversations we had so far, even sharing files, it's here. If I go to my Windows client, it's going to be exactly the same. If I go to my mobile phone, it's going to be exactly the same. And here we can do very simple things. So you see here at the bottom, type a new message. I'm going to just say hello, type enter. There you go. So Jamie now is getting this message. He might be, you see, oh, I can see he's typing. There you go. Very simple, very, very straightforward. You see here we have some files, right? So I can attach and share files with Jamie as well. I can upload from my computer, upload from my OneDrive, which is a Microsoft storage option. Because one thing that is key for Teams, it's about collaboration and communication, usually for fast communication. And Matt just was faster than me, because I was going to say something here. You can actually have very informal and fluid conversations. So what Matt just did here, it's available for you as well. We can enrich the conversation, and I can express myself in different ways by using emojis or by using GIFs or GIFs, depending on what's your preference here. So there are different ways to express yourself during the communication. That's one thing. Now let's say Jamie and I we're exchanging these messages here, but actually we're talking past each other, and I'm not really clear why actually he shared the Lion King GIF here. So I can easily call him here. This would be an online call. And basically, we use Teams calling Teams. He could be anywhere, and he would pick up this, for instance, using his mobile client in a coffee shop. We can also extend that to a video call as necessary. So this is a very simple scenario. It's me chatting with Jamie. Now let's move to, let's say, the lunch buddies here. Besides the option of chatting with a single person, I can chat with multiple people. So in this example here, we have 4 people, myself plus Adele, Jamie, and Lucia. We can also configure or rename this. In this case, we said this is going to be the Lunch Buddies chat. This is a group chat, right? So it's still chat, and I can still have the history here, and I can still call everyone in this chat. I can start a video call with everyone in this chat. In this example here, we were talking about finding options for lunch. So what I'm actually want to do here, I want to suggest a place. So I can easily, as part of the chat, I can easily suggest, I really like this pizza place here near the office. So I'm going to say, all right, there you go. What about this one? So in a very visual, interactive way, if they're not sure, if they like this, they can just click here and for instance. So I know, okay, everybody's on board. They can click here, get directions, go to the website. So different options to interact directly within the group chat. Now, let's say we forgot about someone really important in the group. There you go. You see Jamie just said he's okay with this option. And the has that ability to say, okay, I really like this, or sometimes it's just acknowledge. Okay, message received, we're good, I'm working on it, so you can use that in that situation as well. But let's say now we're missing someone here, so you see at the top right, we can add people. This is super cool because I can add someone here, so let's say I want to add Alan, and I have the choice. I want Ellen to see everything. Actually, in the first example, I don't want Ellen to see anything we have done so far, or I want Ellen to be able to see just what happened in the last day or last 3 days, whatever it is. Or I can see, you know what, I don't want Ellen to ask questions of things we already share in places we already went for lunch. I want to include all chat history, and then I just do this, and she's now part of the group chat. So this is really different than any messaging application out there. The other thing you can do, I just gave you an example for the location. You have different options here. We could add a Wikipedia search, a YouTube video, or let's say how the weather looks like around the area here in Seattle. Yeah, mostly cloudy. It's not a great surprise, but there you go. So I want to make sure they come prepared. They know what to expect, right? Okay, so this is a summary of chat. Now I want to switch to Teams. This is where we're going to spend most of the time on the session today as part of the demo. So first thing, remember we have 3 teams here, right? Team Blue, the entrepreneurship course, and the marketing club. The first thing I like to point out is how do we get here? How do we create a team? So it's very easy. At the bottom here, you have the option to join or create a team. So I'm going to click here. And you see, I can, depending on how many people around you already using Teams, you may get suggestions. So you may get a lot of different options here. In this case, I have only one suggestion. I can join the Teams new user community. I can click here and join the team because it's a public team. If this is a, if this is a private team, I still can request to join. And I'm going to click here, and the team owners will decide to add me to the team or not. Let's focus here on create a team for a second. So I come here, I click create a team. In education, I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but I want to make sure you're aware of this. So in education, we have 4 different types of teams. The first one is really, for instance, what Dr. Kellerman has done. It's a class team. It's going to bring specific resources. It's going to be customized for the class environment. So this is where, or this is when the class's team type would be used. The second one is professional learning community. This is really mainly focused on faculty or teachers in K-12 working with each other, helping each other, really developing their career and learning from each other. So this is not going to be used today as well. The third one is really if you have staff members in your university, same thing. They need to, let's say, work around a project, let's say the admissions office or graduation or anything like that. They would use staff members team type. And for this first three types of teams, they would be, let's say, customized to support these scenarios. The last one, the anyone type of team, is the one, let's say, you would use for the Team Blue option I'm going to show you, or even the marketing club. And for the entrepreneurship one, it will be a class, but this will be created by your professor. So my point here is, likely as a student, most of the time you're going to create any one team. So we're going to click here, and it's very simple. Let's say now we're going to create a different study group. It's not Team Blue anymore, it's Team Green. And then I can optionally add any description here, and it's always hard to type when you're in front of a lot of people. There you go. And then you can decide if you want to have this team private or public. So going back to my previous point, if I make this public, it's not anyone in the world, is anyone in your institution could be able to see the team, just as I saw this one here, and join. If I don't want that to happen, I can just make this a private team, and I can control actually who's part of that team. All right, so this is how you would create a team. You see one more thing here, which is super interesting, especially if you have a lot of people you want to be part of a team. Let's say we're creating this marketing club, and we have 100 people interested in joining that team. It may take a while to add everyone manually. So one option you have, instead of doing that, you, as a team owner, you can create a team, you can get a specific code, and you share this with everyone. Say, hey guys, if you really want to join the marketing club team, just enter code 123456. So with that information, I can come here, type the code, and be able to join the team. All right. So let's jump into the teams we have here. So let's start with the Team Blue. This is, remember, this is the study group scenario. So first thing I want to point out here is, you see we have different topics under this team. So whenever you create a team, you're going to get the general topic. And by the way, these topics, we call them channels. So if you want to customize, add more topics or projects, you would be adding channels to the team. So in this case here, it comes, the Team Blue came with the general channel, and then I created the economics and the electromagnetism channel. So this is a great way to organize your team or pre-organize your team on topic, on area, on project, whatever makes sense for you. And you can name this, again, the way that makes sense for you. That's the first thing. So let's go to the Team Blue now. I'm going to click here, and I'm in general. The second thing I like to point out, when you're in a channel, this is where we are right now, right? We're in Team Blue, and we're in the general channel. And when you're in a channel, you have these options up here. This is how you customize the team. So the team will always come with the conversations and files, tabs. These are tabs. And then everything else you can customize. And I'm thinking now about the anyone type of team that I mentioned before. If it's a class team, it's going to be slightly different. I'm going to cover that in a minute. But starting with conversations, so this is very similar to what you saw before. Jamie and I, or even the lunch buddies, we were chatting. So we can chat here as well, right? And I can scroll up. I can see everything that has been done here already. So I posted this here before. So a couple of things I like to highlight here. So you see we have threaded conversations. So I shared the context file here asking for information. Jamie responded, and it's part of the same thread. So if I click here on reply, I can say whatever it is, gotcha, and it's part of the same conversation. It moves together, right? So you see the context is one thread, the inclusive learning is another one. So that's one thing. The other thing I want to point out is sometimes you want to make sure people know this is this is required. They need to see this file. I really need them to update this file. So in this example, let's say I need everyone to see this. So I'm gonna @mention team. No matter in which team you're in, whenever you type @team, it's gonna bring the team name. And let's say I'm gonna say today is the deadline. Oh, today's the deadline. So when I do this, everybody in this team will be notified. And it's telling me here, hey, I mentioned the Team Blue. The other thing you can do, you can also mention the channel. So I'm going to do this in a second, actually. But what I did, the third option here is really to mention a specific person. So Jamie responded to me, and he mentioned Matthew. That's why I see Matthew I was mentioned here. So it's very easy to see, and if there's a lot of conversations going on here, I can easily see where I need to focus on. So I could do the same here and same thing here, and let's say mention, oh, Cherry's not part of the team, so let's just mention Ellen. I just added Ellen. Please submit your info. So this means now Ellen would get something like this, will be notified, and she knows exactly. She goes to the notification. This is going to show up. Depending on her notification settings, is going to show up in the activity feed. A banner can come up here. She may even get this on email if it makes sense for her. She would click. She would be brought into this conversation, and then she can work on the file. Now let's talk about the file. I shared this file here. Remember, hub for teamwork, bringing things together. So I'm going to click here in context. So within Teams, I can actually see the file. Now let me just hide this for a second because I want you to see this. So I can see the file. I can also edit the file in Teams, or I can bring this to the browser, or even bring it to Excel, depending on what I'm trying to do. Let's say I just want to edit the file here. This is where you can actually work with your teammates at the same time, the same document. So in this example here, I'm in the context team, and I can edit this here, update. And because it's in the cloud, I don't need to worry about saving anything or not. Let's say now I see Mary needs to provide her phone, and I'm going to click here. Now go back to the conversation. It's showing the conversation. Again, think about context. I can see the content, and I can actually, well, Mary's not part of this team, so that's not a good example. Let's say Lucia. Lucia needs to update this here. I'm going to mention Lucia. I don't need to keep the last name. I don't see your info here. So I'm having a chat conversation as I look at the content. This saves a lot of time. I don't need to switch back and forth. I don't need to log into multiple applications. So this is really cool. The other thing is, let's say we're doing this, and even over chat, we're not able to clarify exactly what I need. I need them to do something specific they're not getting, or I'm not expressing myself. So I can easily start a meeting here. So if I click here, now basically I'm going to say yes because I'm in the browser. So yes, Microsoft and camera. So this is me. You don't need to see me, so we can turn this off. And I can click meet now, and it's going to start a meeting, and we can all jump into that meeting. So I'm going to show you some examples for the meeting later on. All right, so one other thing, let me close here. I want to go back to the conversation. Remember, I just posted this, right, for Lucia. I posted this. I was looking at the file, but because I was having a conversation and looking at the content at the same time, they're connected. So now I go back to conversations, it's right here, right? So she doesn't have to think about where is that message I got from Matthew. It's right here. Everything is within context. The other thing is, for instance, in this team, we were requested by one of the professors to create a team charter. And because people always ask about this, they're always trying to find where it is, I just pinned this file as a tab. And to do that, let's just go back. So it's very easy, very handy. I'm starting to customize this channel here. Very easy to find. So let's go to conversations now. And this is, I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's say I want to do the same thing for context. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to make this a tab. And there you go. So now I'm customizing the general channel, and the context is right here. So no matter a month from now, I can't find this conversation anymore, but I want to find the file. I can go to files for sure, but I can also just click here, and it's going to bring me right to the file. Okay, That's great. Let's speed up. I'm just checking the time right now. I want to make sure I cover everything here. So let's just collapse this here. One thing that I really love about Teams is the ability, or a lot of capabilities, to help inclusive learning. So in this case here, in any message actually, you can click here on the ellipsis and you have the option to activate the immersive reader. So that's going to basically bring you to the immersive reader. I can change if I want to change the speed, or if it's going to be a female or male. I can change the colors. I can highlight, in this case, verbs. Let's say I want to highlight nouns. And basically, I click here, and you won't be able to hear because the audio won't come through. But actually, there's someone, in this case, a female voice. It's basically dictating this for me, so I can actually hear what was the message, what the message was all about. That's one thing. The other thing is really cool as well is thinking about inclusive learning. We have the ability to translate messages right in Teams. So in this example here, I posted something in Portuguese. I can click here, translate. It's going to translate back to my native language in Teams, which is English. So in this case, what I meant is really who's ready to learn. And you can see there's a symbol here saying this message has been translated. On this team, we have, moving now to the economics channel here, you can see other examples. The economics 101 file was shared. I click on the file. It's the same process, right? I click on the file. It's going to open the file. I can visualize. I can ask questions here. We can chat about this. The other thing is interesting is the fact that if you're sharing something, it brings a link here in this case. It brings a preview, so it's very nice, very easy to find content here. And the same thing, we've done this in the electromagnetism course. So that's the first scenario. That's the study group. Let's move to the next one, course collaboration. So this is the scenario I mentioned before that has been used at the example of University of New South Wales. So one thing that you can see here, you see we have different channels, right? We have the business case development, capstone project group A, and so forth. So this is how the professor organized this class team. And we also have conversations, we have files, so we can see all the files in the team. But because this is a class team, I have something different here. I have the class notebook, for instance. So this is the example, if we think about the University of New South Wales example, this is where the professor would use digital ink. So instead of using the whiteboard or blackboard, he or she would actually take their notes in OneNote. And then all the students could come here and see the notes, and I have to apologize for my handwriting, but think about, assume this is a good handwriting and your professor is actually taking those notes. This is where you would come to see what has been shared in that class without spending your time trying to write down every single thing, but instead paying attention and joining the conversation. So the class notebook is one of the things I like to highlight as part of this class course collaboration environment. This is what's saving them time. The second thing here is assignments. So if you're in a class notebook, as a professor, I can see more options here. I have the option to review or create assignments. You would be able to see the assignments here. So let's say if you're a student, you want to see what's coming, what's behind you, where we are today, what's coming. Let's say I want to see this midterm presentation. So the professor told us what we need to do. So instructions are here. In this case, it's very straightforward. Just make sure we are respecting the honor code. I can even see files that the professor shared with us right here. And as a professor, they can actually see who already submitted, who didn't submit, if late turn-in is allowed or not, how many points this is worth. Actually, not just the professor, you can also see this. And as a student, I can come here to assignments. You see I'm going to a different place right now. And I can see assignments from all the different courses I'm in. Not just the entrepreneurship course, which is what you see here, but if I had assignments from a different course, they would show up here as well. Oh, excuse me. All right, let's go back to the team here. One other thing that is interesting about Teams, you see there's a lot of, it's very flexible, so I can customize a lot of things here. So in this example, because it's a different type of team, I have the class notebook assignments. In this case, the professor decided he or she's always getting questions around where is the syllabus. So they just did this. They just pinned the syllabus here. So again, no matter where I am on the conversation, I can always come here and and find the syllabus. And if you're in your study group, or if you're a professor, if your professor wants to customize this even further, they can add this all these different options to Teams. So you can add a OneNote notebook, or a forms for a quiz or a poll, or a Flipgrid grid, or even a planner for group tasks, or SurveyMonkey for more advanced survey options. So there's a lot of different applications available for you and your faculty here in Teams. The other thing that is nice, it's simple but nice. Let's say this is the class. There are different ways to organize this, but in this example, the professor decided to keep the general channel, then a business case development channel, and we have channels for the capstone project group A, C, and so on. But you know what? I'm group C. I know I can see what's going on there on group A, but I don't need to see the channel. This is just a distraction for me, so I can just come here, remove the favorite, and I can really focus on what matters to me, which is my group and the business case development. And if I need to see something else, let's say I need to focus more on the IPO process, I just select this as a favorite, and now the IPO process channel shows up for me. So I can easily get access to what's, let's say, more relevant for me. So this is the second scenario, the course collaboration. So for this one, again, your professor would set things up, and then you and your teammates and your whole cohort likely would collaborate. Now let's move to the third scenario here. We have the marketing club. This is for extracurricular activities, and this is I'm gonna share a couple of different things here. So in this example, let's say you see the team is organized in a different way. We have a channel for all the events discussions, a channel for all the job opportunities. We have a channel for monthly meetings, and so on and so forth. So let's start with the events, because I want to highlight something else here. So you see the structure is the same, right? Conversations, files, but then here we have a specific website around content marketing that we thought it was helpful. And let me just see if this is going to show up in an iframe. There you go. So we thought this was a great website. Everybody should have access to this. So it's right here. It's always available for everyone within Teams. And I can actually interact with the file, with the website. And this is just one example how you customize. But the point that I like to make here, it's really around the scenario where we're in an event, right? So let's say we're organizing a marketing fair, or even organizing Thanksgiving dinner with some key speakers. We're going to have a cool discussion here. So you can easily have a way to create and assign tasks to your group. So in this example, we have I have a task for the budget. I need to approve the budget. I see here this is due November 16th. I know Jamie needs to work on the venue options. Cher is working on the final list of participants here. And let's say we want to add Ellen. I want to review the content, and I'm going to assign this to Ellen, and we're good. And the date is going to be this Friday. There you go. So now Ellen knows what she needs to do. So it's a great way to keep group tasks open, available. Everybody can see, everybody has accountability, and there are different ways to organize this. I want to see everything by due date. I want to see everything by owner. I can also see this consolidated. So let's say everything that's going on around the marketing fair or the Thanksgiving dinner here, I can see by member as well, and I can even see this in a calendar. I can see everything that's going on. So it's much easier to manage a project like that, just because you bring again all the conversations, all the tasks, the owners here in Teams. And if I need to talk to them about this, I can easily start a conversation the same way we did. There you go. See, I shared this. Jamie just confirmed he's on it, and I want to recognize, acknowledge, okay, got it. So like your message. So the same way, the same principle of having content and conversation at the same time. Let's say this is too small, I can even make it bigger, right? I have a better view here of the content. It could be a file as well, it could be a meeting, and I can have the conversation, escalate this to a meeting, whatever makes sense to get things done, right? At the end, that's the goal. You're working with other people to get things done. In this example, we want to organize the marketing fair. We want to make sure everything is in place in time. The second thing I like to highlight here in the marketing club, is the fact that we meet every month and we discuss the recent trends in marketing, and we review the main job opportunities. Usually you have a guest speaker. So this example here, let me just show you what we've done. Basically, I notified the whole team, right? Oh, by the way, you can organize your conversations if you use the rich formatting option down here. This is what I did. So you can add a subject to the conversation, and you have other options here for rich formatting. I already done this here, so I call this, the subject for this topic is November meeting. I mentioned the channel. That's why the monthly meeting showed up here. And to do that, it's very straightforward. That's the example I mentioned before. So in any channel, if you type add channel, it's going to bring the name of the channel, and everyone who's following or has the monthly meetings as a favorite channel, they would be notified. This is exactly what I did up here. Now let me just remove this here. In this case, I was just telling everyone, hey, make sure everything we're doing is going to be around the monthly meetings will be in this channel, and then I schedule the meeting, right? So when you do this here, let's click Meet Now. Let's do that again. Yes, turn off my camera again. I can schedule the meeting from here. This is exactly what I did, and I can define where it's going to be because I'm already in the Marketing Club team, the monthly meetings channel. It brings this automatically. I want to test this. Let's say that's the name of the meeting, and now I can just schedule the meeting, and it's open. Anyone in the team can see the meeting and add to the calendar, or I can actually invite people, and they will get this on their calendars as well. So I already did that, and basically this is what happened. We had the meeting, and I'm going to do this here. Let's say I missed that meeting. I couldn't join the meeting, but it was recorded, so I can easily come here. And basically Teams is now working behind the scenes with a different Office 365 service called Microsoft Stream, and is bringing me the recording. Let me just mute this. You won't be able to hear this, but something that is really cool, it's closed caption. So I missed the meeting, and I can actually come back, watch the recording, and I can see what the conversation was all about because I have closed captions. And because I have closed captions, I can actually search. So before I watch the whole video, let me see what was the agenda for this call. So I can just type agenda, hit enter, and it recognizes the agenda was presented at the beginning of the video. I click here, and it's going to take me right to that point in the video. So think about this. You're missing a meeting, but it's available for you easily. You don't need to find a link anywhere else. You don't need to ask anyone, wait. You just go to the monthly meetings because you already know how your team is working. You know the meetings available here for you. You find the November meeting, you click play, and that's it. Now, you don't have time to watch the whole video, so just search for, if the closed captions is enabled for you in that video, just search for the specific word you're looking for. In my case, it was the agenda, and I can easily take me to where I want, or I can even type my name. Let's say I want to see action items for me. So this is a great example for monthly meetings, but it's also a great example even for the previous scenario I mentioned before. Let's say you missed a class for entrepreneurship course. The recording will show up the same way. You just click, and everything will be there for you in context. All the conversation during the meeting, by the way, if someone is posting questions in the chat, or even sharing links, sharing names, documents during that session, everything will be part of this conversation. So it could be easily organized here, and I can easily expand and see everything that has happened there, which is super cool and would save you a lot of time. So that is a summary of Teams for those three use cases. The last thing before we finish the demo here, I want to point out the store. I mentioned some options to customize the team, so let me just collapse the team here. At the bottom left, you have this option for store, and this is where you can see all the different apps available for Teams. And I can scroll down here, I can search, I can see, let's say, everything that is available around specific education topics, or let's say you're in computer science, you want to see everything that is available around technology. You can see what's available for developers in IT, and so on and so forth. So that's a great way to customize the team to address your own needs as students, and make sure you're leveraging other applications you may already have access to outside of Teams, bring them into that hub for teamwork. All right, with that, let me go back to the presentation. And now for the presentation, we're actually done. We only have some suggested next steps for you. So the first thing, the very first thing I'd like to ask you is, if you're not using Teams today, start. Just give it a shot. It's very easy. You go to aka.ms/edu start. So that's the same link I shared before. It's going to take you to this portal here. And you can, if Teams is available for your university, you will be able to log in using your school account and really get started. Some universities, and this is something that we've learned as we talk to universities, some universities have different processes for team creation. So you might be able to create your study group yourself, depending on what your institution wanted to do. You may actually have to go through a process. So it might be slightly different. So the second step is related to that. If you're super excited about this, you want to give it a shot, let's say it's not available, or even better, hey, I think I've been using Teams already for my study group, but now I want to bring this to my class. I love if one of my professors would actually do something similar to what you share for the University of New South Wales. How can I do that? So you have ways to bring others on board. The same way we have this webinar today focused on students, we have other sessions, one just for faculty. So actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, the next week it's going to be the session for faculty. But anyway, you can check the full calendar with presentations for faculty, but also staff, and even IT, if you go to aka.ms/teams/edu webinars. You see the full calendar there. We're going to have another session for students, by the way, if you want to share this with your colleagues. It's going to be, I think, early next year. So make sure you share this with people and they're aware of those options. So that's going to be the second thing here. Let me just go ahead and remove this distraction and go back to the presentation now. And the third option here is really, if you want to test this, if you want to test this with your teammates or your whole cohort, if you know about a professor who's really excited about new technologies, and not just technologies, but new ways to teach and new ways to create a learning community, you think this might be a great option for your class, you can submit, you can nominate that as a pilot. So talk to your professor and submit and nominate here through aka.ms/teamspilot. So this is a limited program. We have limited seats, but myself or one of my peers, depending on the pilot and depending on how many requests, we're going to reach out to you and we're going to help you to go through that pilot, and help you could be sometimes just making sure everybody's trained or on Teams, or working with your faculty, your professor, to see how that could work, provide some options, or even help with IT. Sometimes they might be looking for some guidance as well. So nominate your pilot here, and let's make sure you have the support you need to get this done. And with that, we are done. So let me just go back here for a second. I want to see. I know Dominic has been crazy around Q&A. Let me just see if we still have some open questions here. So Dominic, I'm going through the questions here. Is there anything you'd like to highlight for us before we close the session? In the meantime, I'm going to scroll through the questions. Actually, I think Dominic answered all the questions. So with that, we're right on time. I really like to thank you for joining us today. You're going to get a recording for the session later today. Please watch this or share with your peers, your professors. Share the links as well, and leverage Teams to help your student life in university to